Hello. So this video is going to be about renouncing the world and what that means, because it definitely can be misunderstood by many people. So in the 3rd chapter of Bhagavad Gita, this is a very, very important thing to realize. This is verse 4 and 5, and it says, "Those who merely shirk worldly activities, thinking they are renouncing action, cannot attain the supreme goal. You first have to act. Mere refusal to act is futile. Even the supposedly passive goal of clarifying the intellect and acquiring knowledge cannot be achieved without action. Look at nature. The fruit engaged in its task of ripening does not renounce its task and sever its connection to the tree until it is fully ripe. Indeed, Arjuna, inaction for even a moment is impossible. Eating, sleeping, breathing, the heartbeat, even subconscious mental activities, all are actions. Everyone is helplessly driven to action by their own nature and by nature itself. Action is inherent throughout nature. Even the single whirling atom of the universe, all is movement and action." And also, verse 7 says, "Engage in action, do your work, but with full control of your mind and senses, and be aware that the work you do should contribute in some way, directly or indirectly, to the higher good of humanity." And it also says, this is verse 6, "If one sits motionless, but with one's mind ever thinking of sense attractions, that too is engaging in action. If you think that merely being motionless is being actionless, you are being a hypocrite and deluding yourself." So pretty much what's being wrapped up there is how you can't expect to do good just by not acting whatsoever. Mere refusal to act is wrong, and just by not acting whatsoever isn't going to get you into a better place. And when you do act, it should be for the better of humanity, and it should be without attachment. So if you think about it, what would be considered better? Somebody in a temple doing nothing at all, just waking up 6 o'clock in the morning every day, worshipping an idol. I mean, yes, worshipping Krishna, that's a good thing, I'm not saying it's wrong. But you go and you do this, and you selfishly spend your entire day in the temple. Like, you think you're serving God, but there's so many other ways to serve God, because God isn't going to be happy if you just refuse to live in the world. You have to be in this world, but not of this world. If you can do your daily activities and your work with control of your senses and full knowing that it's not being bound to it, then that is better than just not acting whatsoever. That's pretty much what's going on there. And because renouncing isn't just running away from your problems, it's facing your problems with God's help. So if you're going to say that I'm going to renounce action, that would be wrong. Do not renounce action, just do action, but with full knowing that God is with you at all times, in that it is not all that there is so much more beyond that. And if you do your actions with knowing that you're doing it as sacrifice to God, you're doing it as service to God, like how he said, do all actions for the better of humanity. So what do you think is more nice to humanity? Spending all your day in a temple serving God, or going out and making a difference in this world by serving the Lord within everybody? If you give to people who are in need, then that is in fact serving the Lord, like how in the Upanishads it says, refuse not food to those who are hungry. When you feed the hungry, you serve the Lord, from whom is born every living creature. Those who realize the self within the heart stand firm, grow rich, gather a family around them, and receive the love of all. Yeah. So that's pretty much what's going on there. You can't merely refuse to act and not act for the better of humanity. When you do your duty, then that is better than trying to ignore your duty and to ignore your dharma and to just simply think that doing nothing at all is going to get you into a better place. Yeah, and a lot of times people will renounce everything and think, okay, I'm going to go live into the wilderness, or I'm going to go live the rest of my life in a temple and devote my life entirely to God, because a lot of people think that if you want to devote your life entirely to God, you can't just live the way that you're living. People think to themselves, if I want to really live my life for God, I have to, like, say, move to India and become a monk, or just do nothing for my whole life and live in a temple. Like, I have to just live in a temple. Like, obviously, if I'm a good devotee, I should live in a temple. But that's not necessarily true. It's just like becoming a therapist because you want to help people. You think, oh, if I want to help people, I have to become a therapist because there's no other way that I could help somebody. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get into a place where only people who have loads of money and who are able to tell their parents about their problems or tell whoever about their problems to come to me, when in reality, you're letting a lot of people down. So just going into a temple, sure, you might be able to help people who are able to just approach that temple, but you're not going to be helping people who really need it. When you serve God, you don't just do it in your own limited form. You go out and you make a difference. You feed people who need it, and you spread the love of God, just like how Christians, they'll have food drives and they give money to their church so their church can support, say, like the troops, or support homeless shelters and stuff like that. It's kind, and they give things to people and do things, and that's how it should be. That's serving God. That's serving God's people, and God wants you to serve His children because everyone has God within them. You're serving the self. Treat everyone as if you know that self. Don't just see skin deep. If you only see skin deep, you can only see the skin. You're not seeing beyond that. You're just seeing a person, and you don't understand why you have to help them. But if you can see beyond that, and you can actually understand that the Lord that's within you is within every other person, you aren't being selfish at all, because you're knowing that it's all one. And just think about it. I mean, it's pretty intense. Yeah. So, let's see. That's pretty much all I wanted to say there. And maybe I'll read another part. Another part that says, but those who carp about these teachings and do not practice them are deluded and without spiritual discrimination. They are the cause of their own sorrow and ruin and become lost. So yeah, that's just saying, like, if you just read these teachings and expect to do nothing, then yeah. And I also wanted to talk about how Arjuna, if Arjuna were to just renounce action right when Krishna was telling him all this, if he was just going to be like, okay, well, I'm just going to do nothing and go to the temple, then he wouldn't have fought, he wouldn't have done it. It's Krishna saying you have to do your duty. That's your dharma. Your dharma, everyone is born with a dharma, and if everyone's dharma was to just go live in a temple, then we would be nowhere. Like, this world would be a nothing. There would be no farms, there would be nothing. Everybody would be doing nothing at all. So there's always people that are born to help others, and then there's people who are just meant to be a person of action, like Arjuna. He was a man of action, and his action was to fight and for the better of humanity, to make the world a better place. That's, fighting good over evil. There's people who have jobs like that, and even if your job is just like a carpenter or you work in a factory, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, you can work in a factory and be making paper and chanting to yourself and doing your work as a devotion to God. Do everything you do. Create that factory paper with God in mind, and make every factory paper you make devoted to God, because that in itself is better than just doing nothing. There's not a job that's just for people who believe in our Hindu. It's not if you want to be a Hindu, you have to become this guru or become a teacher or a yoga teacher, which it's just, you don't need to do that to help people. There's so many other ways to help people that you can do, and so many ways to serve God, and it's so wonderful that it's not limited to just one thing. There's so many ways to worship, and like this part in Srimad Bhagavatam, it talks about how you can worship God in many ways. Like Krishna was saying, this is what he says: worship me in the sun through Vedic hymn, worship me in the fire through oblations, saying to thyself that all thy impurities are forthwith consumed. Worship me in the knowers of truth through hospitality and service. Worship me in the devotee by welcoming him cordially. Worship me through meditation in the sanctuary of the heart. Worship me in the air by seeing it as divine energy, and in water by accepting it as the symbol of divine purity. Worship me in the earth by repeating the sacred mantram, my holy name. Worship me in the body by offering it food and drink. And worship me, the indwelling spirit in all beings, with an even constancy of vision. In all these abodes worship me in my benign form, thy chosen ideal, and worship me with a concentrated mind. So it's pretty much saying, like, even if you're just like taking a walk, you can still worship God in the air by seeing it as divine energy, in water, even in yourself, when you're feeding yourself, when you're drinking water, even that you're worshiping him in the body because of the indwelling spirit. It's so many ways to do it. You don't just have to do it in one way. Yeah, so that's pretty much wraps up what I wanted to say. So I hope that cleared things up, and yeah, namaste.